Comey hearing last week. And in fact, the big story out of Washington is James Comey is probably going to write a book. And everybody wants to publish the book because they think that he's got more beans to spill, although he seemed to spill a lot of beans from his point of view last week.
I wonder in the book will we see the memos?
Right.
The House Intelligence Committee is asking for those memos. They have reached out to the White House counsel, Don McGahn, asking them for James Comey's memos, and also sent a letter to Comey asking for the memos. Deadline is June 23rd, so we'll see.
Why do I have a hunch that he only took notes with President Trump and not with President Obama? Because they only met together twice and nothing significant happened. He already indicated that unless things happen, I don't really jot things down. That's one thing I'm curious about.
It all depends on what you define notes as. Something could be notes, something could be from a diary, and then it's like, well, these are the only notes I've got. But I've got the stuff from the diary regarding Loretta Lynch, but that's a different thing.
We were at Yankee Stadium yesterday for Fox Fan Day. We'll talk about that coming up. But I talked to some of the folks that watch our show, and they were like, do you remember when Paul Ryan last week said, you got to give this president a break? He's a business guy. You know, he went in there and he said as a friend, you know, Can you just cut this guy some slack? He was a general. I really like him. Comey agreed. I really like him. He said that was his message. That's what they thought the message was.
Sure.
And they're saying, the president, come on. He's a businessman. Let him, you know, he's only been in for a few months.
And we're going to get to that. It's not going to be what they think. It's not going to be what we think. It's going to be what Robert Mueller ultimately thinks. Was it a obstruction of justice? Meanwhile, let's talk about what's going to be happening this week. At some point, Attorney General Sessions is expected to go to Capitol Hill Tuesday. And at some point, we don't know if it's behind closed doors. We don't know if it's going to be an open-air setting.
I think open.
Right?
Initially.
Yeah, we'll see. Because I'm not sure if he's committed to doing that, at which time he's going to be asked to explain why he met, if indeed he did, with Ambassador Kislyak of Russia 3 times. What you discussed. If I'm Sessions, I would say, oh, by the way, if that is indeed true, I got to go to the other ambassadors I saw from other countries because I'm this thing called a U.S. Senator.
Sure. Keep in mind, a lot of these things where they said he met with them, it was simply there was an event. They shook hands.
Right.
That counts as a meeting in Washington, D.C. So anyway, because there is such a swirl surrounding the President of the United States and Jeff Sessions to testify tomorrow, the President, over the weekend, hired a brand new attorney. His name is Jay Sekulow. You know him. You've seen him on TV a million times here on the channel. He will essentially be the TV face of the legal Trump team.
By the way, can I just say this? Good choice. Oh, my goodness,
absolutely.
is he strong.
Well, not only you, Brian, but the president himself thinks Sekulow does a good job defending the president on TV. He has argued over a dozen cases before the Supreme Court. He was on the ABC Weekend Roundup show yesterday, and he had this to say about could the president possibly fire the special counsel. Watch.
You look at the issue and say, then what is the role of the special counsel here? And the special counsel allowed James Comey to testify. James Comey said he reviewed his testimony with the special counsel. I think this is unprecedented, where the testimony was reviewed, it was then discussed, and then it was part of that testimony, a large part.
So are you suggesting there, will the president promise not to interfere, not attempt at any time to order the Deputy Attorney General to fire Robert Mueller?
I mean, George, if there was a basis upon which there was a question raised that raised the kind of issues that are serious, as in the situation with James Comey, the president has authority to take action.
The president, thank goodness he has the money to hire attorneys, because you got to fight back in these situations. If Mueller's going after him and his character, he's saying, I'm going to fight back, because he says there is no investigation here. The FBI, James Comey, former FBI director, said 3 times in his meetings with him.
Yes,
we're
Mr.
not
President,
investigating
you're
you.
not under investigation. And so far, and they've been investigating for over a year, there has been no evidence of collusion. But we know, and we were talking to the author of the book that came out a couple months ago called Shattered. On the night Hillary Clinton lost the presidency, it was devised by Robbie Mook and John Podesta that they would say that essentially Russia hacked the election and blamed the Russians, and they continued that narrative to today. And look how it's manifested itself. It's extraordinary.
One of the most extraordinary underreported things, not unreported, but underreported things that came out of James Comey's testimony was I knew, after I found out what the president thought and what he tweeted out, I said, I woke up in the middle of the night and I said to myself, I got to go get my side of the story out. I'm going to call my professor at Columbia who called the New York Times, and this anonymous source close to James Comey was James Comey, and they put together, he gave up his diary notes, and they put together what he said happened between him and the president. And then at the end of it, he said, and I knew if I released this, it would result in a special counsel. Oh, really? Guess who's running the special counsel? your buddy Robert Mueller. I know he's got this great reputation, but they've worked together for 30 years and hand in hand. So he says, wait a second, you put this out there to get a special counsel, and now the president's got to feel as though he's going to get a fair shake at this?
Well,
this is dangerous, especially if you look at the quality of criminal attorneys. This guy's putting together a murderer's row of criminal attorneys that is going to examine the Trump administration.
He hired Michael Dreeben. He on a part-time basis. His specialty is criminal matters. He has argued 100 cases plus before the Supreme Court, so he's extremely prepared. Then Andrew Wiseman, also, he was the chief of the fraud section of DOJ's criminal division. He was also hired by Mueller. So the president is saying,
legal studs.
Exactly. So the president is saying, I'm going to fight back. And he thinks he's innocent, so he says, I'm fighting.
As well, he should. And clearly, Mr. Comey was trying to work the refs in the form of Robert Mueller. He was trying to say, look at all this stuff I'm going to show you on TV. It was obstruction of justice. And essentially, that's what he's trying to push, is that particular case. Newt Gingrich was on yesterday on Fox News Sunday and said, look, ultimately, at the end of the day, as you look at the back of our heads, the investigators in this thing, you can't trust them.
First of all, look at what Comey said. Comey said, I deliberately leaked through an intermediary to create this counsel, who happens to be one of his closest friends. Then look at who Mueller's starting to hire. I mean, these are people that, frankly, look to me like they're setting up to go after Trump. They're including people, by the way, who have been reprimanded for hiding from the defense information in 2 major cases. I think this is going to be a witch hunt. I distrust independent counsels. I think that the people Mueller's bringing in are dangerous people, and any Republican who thinks this counsel is going to be neutral is crazy. It would be like expecting the Post or the New York Times to be accurate.
That is as focused and as intense as I've seen Newt Gingrich in a long time. He is absolutely convinced it could go awry. Meanwhile, let's talk about Loretta Lynch and what came out under the Comey testimony. He says, yeah, I was concerned back in July when Loretta Lynch said to me, he said, James Comey, just to review, hey, I got to go in front of Congress, Senate subcommittee, and I was wondering, you don't mind, I'm going to call this investigation and update everybody on what I'm doing with Hillary Clinton. And Loretta Lynch says, hey, wait a second. Don't use the term investigation. Use the term matter. And everybody's fireworks went off and said, wait a second. You said that behind closed doors. Now you're saying in front of everyone. Why aren't we looking into that?
Even Democrats, Dianne Feinstein, top Democrat on the Senate Judiciary Committee, she has called yesterday for an investigation into the former Attorney General Loretta Lynch. Listen to this.
I would have a queasy feeling, too, though, to be candid with you. I think we need to know more about that. And there's only one way to know about it, and that's to have the Judiciary Committee take a look at that.
Were you all surprised by that?
And believe me, look for the Republicans, with the Democratic support, it seems, to go heavily, the Judiciary Committee especially, to go heavily after this Lynch connection. Because there's a memo out there, evidently from the DNC to the Attorney General, that says, whatever you do, don't go ahead and go after Hillary Clinton. They're going to ask to see that memo. If it doesn't exist, they want to know why. Perhaps it was brought up behind closed doors.
There is talk that it might be fake, so we'll have to see what this investigation brings forth. But James Comey last week did say that Lynch had asked him to downplay the investigation as merely a matter. This is not an investigation into Hillary Clinton. Please call it a matter.
Because that's politics.
And when James Comey tried to convince Congress, the reason I'm reopening this email thing is because of this memo that shows a collusion between the Department of Justice and the DNC. He never specified, Lindsey Graham said yesterday, that it might be fake. And so that's the thing. So is it a fake memo? Is it fake news? What is it? Maybe we'll find out if they get to the bottom of Loretta Lynch.
Yeah, let's see Comey's notes on that. Meanwhile, let's see what Jillian's been taking notes on.
Hey, how was your weekend?
Good morning.
The weekend was good. How about you guys?
Great.
Good weekend?
Good, yeah.
Excellent. Well, we do have a Fox News alert to get to right now. Another frightening scene on a plane. Terrifying moments as thousands of feet in the air this happened. A plane packed with people forced to make an emergency landing overnight after a massive hole rips open in the engine during takeoff.